Beyond the outermost ice giants, something invisible is pulling. 15 degrees. The orbits of distant objects in our solar system are tilted by an unseen force, a gravitational ghost. The mathematics don't lie, but the culprit vanishes into the dark. Is this object a lost sibling of Earth, born here, hidden in the black, or did it drift in from interstellar space, silent, uninvited? You've lived your entire life believing the solar system was mapped, charted, safe. It isn't. Somewhere in the void beyond Neptune, a mass the size of a world distorts reality itself. And no one knows what it is. If you stay, you'll confront the unsettling probability that our sun captured something it was never meant to hold. A rogue world, drifting between the stars, now circling in the dark. A tilt in the light. You were told there's something out there, but no one told you where to look. 80 astronomical units from the sun, roughly 12 billion kilometers into the dark, lies the Kuiper Belt, a frozen graveyard, icy relics from the birth of the solar system, drifting in silence, undisturbed for 4.5 billion years. You've never seen it. You never will. It exists beyond the edge of human perception, a place where sunlight arrives as little more than a whisper. And something is disturbing it. Not with light, not with heat, with gravity. Astronomers are watching objects between 80 and 200 astronomical units. Chunks of ice the size of mountains shift in their orbits, slowly, predictably, as if guided by an invisible hand. But when they point their telescopes toward the source of these ripples, nothing, just the void staring back. This is the frustration of the hunt, trying to map an entire ocean by only observing the waves. You see the water move, you know something massive passed beneath, but the surface betrays nothing. The unseen object is theorized to be distant, cold, and wrapped in a surface so dark it swallows light. Our telescopes, designed to catch the faint glow of distant worlds, are useless here. This thing doesn't want to be found, or perhaps it simply doesn't care whether you notice it at all. So astronomers watch the debris field. They measure perturbations in trajectories. They build models of an invisible mass. They're hunting a ghost in the machine of our solar system, a gravitational anomaly with no face, no reflection, no proof of existence beyond the slow, cold rearrangement of the dark. And every night they search, the question grows heavier. If it's out there, how long has it been watching us? You're standing at a crime scene, but there are two sets of tracks leading away from it, pointing in opposite directions. One trail leads towards something massive, something predictable, if deeply unsettling. Astronomers call it Planet 9, a hypothetical gas giant 5 to 10 times the mass of Earth, lurking perhaps 500 astronomical units from the sun. That's 500 times the distance between you and the light warming your skin right now. A colossus drifting through perpetual night, massive enough to torment entire neighborhoods of icy objects across centuries, yet invisible. Never photographed, never confirmed. But then, Princeton University ran newer simulations. The numbers refused to cooperate. The second set of tracks leads somewhere closer, somewhere stranger. Not a distant giant, but Planet Y, an Earth-sized, rocky world. Your twin, hiding perhaps 250 astronomical units out. Close enough to have been born here, in the same stellar nursery that forged you. This is where the paranoia begins. If Planet Y exists, if it's truly rocky, truly Earth mass, then our solar system didn't just form 8 planets and stop. It created 9, maybe more. And then something catastrophic happened. A gravitational war, a slow, silent exile. Your sibling world was flung into the outer dark, sentenced to orbit in frozen isolation for 4.5 billion years. Or worse, it was never ours to begin with. The existence of this gravitational anomaly confirms one truth you cannot escape. The very architecture of the solar system you were born into is fundamentally uncertain. You do not know what shares this space with you. And the search itself is madness. You are looking for a dark planet, no reflected sunlight, no heat signature, against the infinite black. The only evidence? The disturbed wake it leaves behind. Invisible ripples in invisible orbits. Two sets of tracks, two impossible worlds. And you, standing at the center, realizing you don't even know what you're looking for anymore. You stand in the house you were born in. You've walked these halls your entire life. You know every creak in the floorboards, every shadow cast by moonlight through familiar windows. And yet, something has always felt wrong. A cold draft from a room that should be sealed. The sense of being watched from a doorway that opens onto nothing but wall. For decades, you convinced yourself it was just the house settling, old bones groaning, a trick of memory. But now you found the evidence, the photographs that don't match your recollection, the fingerprints on glass you never touched. And you're forced to ask, what if this presence was never a ghost at all? The most comforting explanation, the one that lets you sleep, is that this hidden world is our lost sibling. That during the violent birth of our solar system, when Jupiter's gravity flung entire planets into the dark, this object was simply ejected from the inner orbits. It wandered for a few million years in the cold, then drifted back. A prodigal child, still family, still ours. This theory preserves the illusion of home. It says, nothing from outside has breached our walls. We are still an isolated island in the cosmic ocean. Our solar system remains a closed loop. 8 planets, some dwarf worlds, all born from the same collapsing cloud of gas 4.6 billion years ago. The intruder in your hallway is just your long-lost brother, returned from the basement. But there is another explanation, one that shatters the locks on every door you thought was sealed. What if this world was never ours to begin with? What if it is a rogue planet, a sunless wanderer born in orbit around a star dozens of light years away, that was captured by our sun's gravity as it drifted through the interstellar void? You are no longer dealing with a ghost. You are dealing with an intruder. Something that came from outside. Something that forced its way in. The galaxy is not empty space punctuated by solar systems. It is an ocean, dense and seething, with an estimated 1 trillion rogue planets. Worlds torn from their parent stars by gravitational chaos. Worlds that never had stars at all. They drift in the space between systems, lightless and invisible, moving at tens of kilometers per second through absolute night. And our solar system is not a fortress. It is a gravitational web stretched across a haunted wilderness. And every few million years, something gets caught. If this hidden world was captured, it means our home is not sealed. The walls are porous. The void does not respect borders. You thought you lived in a quiet neighborhood at the edge of a sleepy spiral arm, but you've been living on a cosmic highway the entire time, and the traffic never stopped. This object may carry with it the chemical fingerprint of another star. Isotopes that do not match anything born here. Minerals that crystallized under alien light. It would be an artifact, a relic of a stellar system that died before Earth even existed. You would be looking at a tombstone, orbiting your sun. And if one intruder made it through, if one dark world broke into our system and circled our star for billions of years without us noticing, what else is out there, circling just beyond the light, waiting to be caught? You tell yourself it's a theory, speculative, distant, and easy to dismiss. But the hunt doesn't wait for your comfort. Right now, as you sit here, the Vera C. Rubin Observatory in Chile is turning its lens toward the outer solar system, conducting the most systematic search for a hidden world humanity has ever attempted. This isn't fiction anymore. The gravitational anomalies in the Kuiper Belt, those clustered, tilted orbits, persist across every new dataset. The simulations demand a planet. The mathematics leaves no room for coincidence. And so the astronomers act, because the evidence has crossed a threshold you cannot ignore. Something massive is bending space-time at the edge of your star's influence. and you've never seen it. Think about what that means. For 10,000 years, you've lived beneath a sun you believed you understood. A furnace of hydrogen, static and indifferent. But gravity doesn't sleep. Gravity doesn't forgive. Your sun's gravitational field extends outward for light years, a vast, invisible web woven into the fabric of space itself. And that web, it hunts. When Planet 9 passed through the outer dark, perhaps 4.5 billion years ago, it didn't drift by chance, it was caught. The sun's gravity reached into the interstellar void and pulled a rogue world into orbit, the way a spider feels the tremor of prey brushing silk. You think of the sun as passive, but it is not. It captures, it bends trajectories, it collects. And now you've noticed a new thread. The Rubin Observatory will image the entire southern sky every few nights, tracking anything that moves against the stars. If Planet 9 exists, its motion, however slow, however faint, will betray it. The search is methodical, cold, and utterly relentless. You are not looking for a myth, you are looking for mass. This is the climax of the mystery, not the discovery itself, that may take years, but the recognition of what your solar system truly is. Not a neat diagram of concentric circles, not a family portrait frozen in time. It is a dynamic predator shaped by violence, theft, and the silent pull of forces you cannot see. You named the planets after gods, but you missed one. And it's already here, somewhere in the dark, bound to you by invisible threads, completing an orbit so vast that human civilizations rise and fall in the time it takes to return. The sun does not merely shine, it reaches, it pulls, it claims. And you, fragile, brief, are learning that even your corner of space is not safe, not mapped, not understood. You are still discovering what shares the web with you. You stand at the shoreline now, staring into the black water. You've seen one shape move beneath the surface, something vast, something that shouldn't be there. And now the question crawls into your mind, cold and patient. What else is out there that you haven't seen yet? Planet 9 orbits in silence. Whether it was born here or stolen from another star, it has circled our sun for billions of years, long before you existed, long before anything on Earth could look up and wonder. It didn't announce itself. It didn't care to be found. It simply was. And that should disturb you more than the discovery itself. Because this planet, this invisible giant, rewrites something you were taught to trust: the map. For centuries, you believed the solar system was charted, understood, closed. 8 planets, a few dwarf worlds, the asteroid belt, all accounted for, all safe. But Planet 9 proves that the map was never complete. It was just convenient. A sketch of the parts you could see, while the rest remained hidden in the dark. And if one world this massive could hide for this long, how many others have you missed? Not worlds that orbit here now, worlds that drifted past. Rogue planets, untethered from any star, wandering through the void like shipwrecks in deep water. Current estimates suggest there are billions of them in our galaxy alone. Billions, silent, invisible, moving through the space between stars, unlit and untracked. Some may have passed through the solar system long ago, slipping between the orbits of Jupiter and Saturn, bending the paths of distant comets, and leaving no trace. You wouldn't have known. You couldn't have known. They don't reflect sunlight out there. They don't announce themselves. They just pass through. And here's what makes it worse. The universe doesn't owe you visibility. It doesn't owe you warning. The darkness between stars isn't empty, it's full. Full of objects you'll never name, never see, never predict. Your telescopes can only catch the light that reaches them. Everything else? It's out there, moving, waiting. Planet 9 may not be the intruder. It may be the warning. You found one shape in the water, but you're still standing at the edge of an ocean, and you have no idea how deep it goes.